For the last 10 years, today's guest has guided the road system fisheries of South Central Alaska, Lower Willow, Upper Willow, the Canyon Water, and Montana Creek. And he's one of the guides behind our recent Alaskan hosted fly fishing journey and has a head full of stories that only come from guiding in a place where anything can happen. In this episode, you're going to hear what it was like from Will's seat on the sticks during our trip, why the bite changed each day, how he chooses between bugs, beads, and buggers, and plenty of stories today. Will's going to get into it all. This is the Wet Fly Swing Podcast, where I show you the best places to travel to for fly fishing, how to find the best resources and tools to prepare for that big trip, and what you can do to give back to the fish species we all love. Will Donnelly shows us how to actively jig, swing, and manipulate the Duracell and other flies while nymphing some of his favorite patterns in Alaska. We're going to find out how to tight line, throw it into the wood, jig it in place, or swim it. We're going to talk about how they get salmon to eat, how they get trout to eat, grayling. We're going to get into all the species with Will today and how to animate it all. Want to give a quick note before we jump in and make sure you listen all the way to the very end. We've added something very special from the Alaska trip. A few of the Wet Fly Swing Pro members who were on the trip shared what the week meant to them, and it's a perfect way to close things out. So stay tuned after Will on this podcast. You're going to hear from some Wet Fly Swing Pro members that were up with me on the Alaska trip. So I'm excited to share that at the very end. All right, here we go. This is going to be a good one. Will Donnelly, you can find him at FishHoundExpeditions.com. How's it going, Will?
Good. What's up, Dave?
Not much, man. I'm excited about this call because we did a trip last year, or actually now remind me again. I'm drawing my blanks on the trip. Was it this year or last year? This is how old I'm getting.
I'd just say last summer.
Yeah, it was last summer.
Like last summer, the most recent summer.
Yeah, it was the most recent summer. Exactly.
Yeah.
So we did a trip this last summer and it was amazing. We had a great crew of some listeners of the podcast that came out. It was awesome. What's amazing about these things, we talked about a little bit, but you bring together these people that don't know each other and you spend a week on the river. I guess we were on the river 3 full days and then we had some extra time. And it turns out this epic adventure. And you guys were our guides. You know, you were our guides on this trip. So I want to talk about that today.
Yeah, was it me, Wyatt, and Dan as the guides on that trip? And we had 6 of you guys, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it was a good mix. It was a good mix of different characters on that trip.
It was.
And it was in the very beginning of the bead bite, the very beginning of it with those kings that are starting to spawn. Yeah,
That's
I'm
right.
picking up on the vibe of that day, those 3 days.
Yeah, you remember
It was
it.
rainy one of those days too. Yeah, it was cold one of those days.
Yeah, that's right. So we had I forgot about that. Yeah, we had the Chinook that were coming in and we were focusing on obviously rainbows, the leopard rainbows, kind of famous for Alaska. Yeah, so there's a lot to cover here. I want to get into a little bit on the fishing, a little bit on that, but tell me, let's just take back first. Let's rewind a little bit. We had you on the podcast. It's been almost 3 years, 2022. What's been going on with you the last 3 years? Have you just been kind of doing the same old good stuff out there in Alaska, or give us an update?
As far as this, how the seasons go, like the actual fishing seasons, overall, pretty much the exact same. Yeah, we're still the same old program. When it comes to the winter work, I finished out driving snowcats out one winter. The next winter, I took quite a bit of time off, and I just traveled Asia for the first time. That was pretty neat. This winter, I got some new gig here in town, and not much has changed. Just like going from season to season, figuring out what I'm gonna do in the winter. Hopefully, this winter, I got a chance to go down to Christmas to catch a GT. And that's like the number one on my list,
Nice.
Seeing that video in Blue Planet of the GT coming out and eating those birds.
Oh, yeah, that was
been
good.
etched in my brain forever. And
That's
hopefully I
right.
get my chance coming up in April. We'll see. I don't do a lot in the winter. Just try to find a gig, keep it easy, stay below the radar,
Right. Yeah, you're not fishing. That's one thing you're not doing in Alaska, at least fly fishing, right? When does fly fishing stop for you in the fall, winter, and then when does it start again?
This year was a little unique. So up in the Sioux Valley here where we're fishing, until about a couple weeks ago, there is great fishing because even though the temp has been going down, we had enough flow in the creeks to hold some of the fish because all these rivers in our area are connected to the Sioux. And in the wintertime, the water drops and it freezes up too much. So all those fish have to migrate to the Sioux to overwinter in the big river
Wow.
underneath that ice. But since this fall was relatively warm with a lot of water, all the way until 2 weeks into November, not October, there was still great fishing in these rivers. So that was cool. That went a little later up here. But if you want to drive down to the Kenai right now, it's still great fishing. And there's some fat monster bows this year gorging themselves out a little bit later on in the season more than normal because they had such an epic fishery run, sockeye run.
Oh, right.
Like when you go there, you're still seeing eggs rolling around in the creek.
Hmm.
Like 3 weeks ago, there was still a bunch of spawning fish.
Yep.
And I gotta tell a good story.
Yeah,
So
let's hear it.
me and Cam went last weekend down there, and we were doing our thing. It's just me and him. We're playing music and
Yeah.
we're in this good little meat tunnel in some braids on the upper there in Cooperland. And if you know, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in a nice little meat tunnel where they're all funneled up. And I hooked into one of the biggest rainbows of the season. It was massive. It felt like a stillhead.
Wow.
My buddy Cam, he's hooked up on a similar fish. We're talking about 28, somewhere around that in inches. And they are as fat as they could possibly get at this
Jeez.
moment. They are the biggest of you could possibly imagine a rainbow could
Wow.
fatten up, right?
Yep. It's like footballs. They look like a football.
Yeah, but these ones they look almost more like Chinooks, how fat
Oh,
they are. You
wow.
know how you get like a
Yep.
short 30-inch Chinook and
Big
it's a
shoulders.
torpedo? It's nothing but no neck, just shoulders.
Right.
And so long story short, me and him are doubled up on massive fish, and he's having to go under me, I'm going above him, and this is the first 45 seconds. This guy in a little pack raft is coming down the river. He's watching us have a good old time hooting and hollering, doing our thing. He's watching us. He doesn't see the sweeper coming at him.
Oh, man.
And he barely touches it. He freaking rolls over in the creek. He has his hunting rifle fall out. He's by himself.
Man.
He's with big duck hunting camo waders.
Jeez.
And he's like, he instantly goes for all his gear and he's bobbing underwater. And he's going to grab for his boat and he's pushing it away. When he goes grabs his boat, and I'm like, I got to point this fish off. Because where no one else is
He's
around.
He's going to drown.
And he has nothing but sweepers and a steep bank on that side. And I'm like, so, and Cam is sitting there playing his fish.
Cam's okay. He's like, I'm going to land my fish.
Like as soon as I pop my fish off to really out that guy, and it's like this 5-second interval, he finally grabs his boat, and I could tell he's barely making it to the other side. I'm like, wish I held that fish on just for, because me and Cam would have had that like.
So you lost your fish?
Oh yeah, I pointed it off, and it's like.
Well,
I like looked up and I'm like, it's good karma.
That's the ultimate challenge for a fly fisherman is, do you land the trophy fish of your life or do you let somebody drown? It's like.
Well, Cam made that decision. Pretty easy.
Cam did. That's so amazing. Yeah, Cam, of course, we've had on the podcast too. We'll get a link to that episode as well. We're talking about the same Cam, right?
Cameron Gordon, yes, sir.
Yeah, Cam.
With Bay Island Expeditions, right?
Yeah, Bay Island. And we haven't chatted with Cam for a little while, but he's still got that operation going?
Yes, sir. As far as I know, him and Howard are still doing it. He had some ladies group, I think, recently go out. So things are still going.
Yeah, cool. Well, that's a little update, I guess, on what you've been up to. You're, right now it's mid-November, so the winter is upon kind of all of us, but especially on you guys. I want to look back on that trip just to, get a feel for, again, what it was like, kind of how it went down. So talk about, do you remember, I'm trying to think, I think we had 3 days on the water. What were we doing each of the days? I know we were floating the river. Talk about that a little bit. What was that trip like? What was our focus? It was kind of rainbows, but there was some salmon around, right?
Yeah, so I know at least, okay, one of the days, since the salmon fishing was so good, meaning the chances to catch pinks, chums, and maybe silvers were really good. Pinks and chums were in the creek really heavy at that time. So I think it was possibly the first day we ran the lower Willow Creek and we just took out the egg weights and used streamers and gripped and ripped on a lot of salmon. That was fun. It got people just to get bent up on a lot of nice big fish.
Yeah, they got some salmon.
And then we went to the upper and we were doing a combination of bug and bead fishing. We ran into the problem when we went up there that some of those rainbows weren't keyed in on eggs yet. And so we had to use a combination of eggs and bugs and different variations of that stuff. A buggy looking egg worked better that day than, something I forget. Oh, and a Duracell that
Oh,
dang thing,
the
of course, worked
Duracell.
better too. Like
That's
whatever,
right.
I shouldn't be saying that out loud.
No, we've already talked about it. Actually, Adam, I know Adam has a visceral reaction to this, and we talked, I think, with him on the podcast that like there's some changes, right? Adam loves the meat. We all do, right up there, but it's changing a little bit, especially in those years when you don't have as many salmon or they're returning a little bit later. It changes it, right? They're not on the eggs and the meat as much.
Well, I wouldn't say, about the time they return is typically the same.
Okay.
That has to do with water flow and water temp mostly. And, and just how healthy the run is. If it's a real healthy run, you're going to see fish come in earlier because you got more numbers. But like there is an average, and when they push in and stuff.
Yeah. So they are on those bugs though. So the Duracell, which is a Euro nymph, and it's like you're kind of getting down. Talk about that a little bit. Let's go into that. If you are fishing bugs, what were we fishing, or what do you guys typically fish during the summer? And talk about how you choose. How do you know what bug to use? Whether you're going to throw some eggs on. Talk about that a little bit.
So that's funny. Like like a lot of the people listening to your podcast, you fish down in the States are like bug experts. I'm an Alaskan fishing guide. I moved to Alaska when I was young. When it comes to bugs, like I am definitely, I know more than the average non-fisherman, but I am not an entomologist in like learning, like, why are they buying a Duracell? I can't tell you.
Yeah.
I can't tell you exactly, but I could tell you the way my vibe on it is just because it's a heavy fly. It connects well to your indicator or your high sticking so you could feel it.
Yep.
It gets down deep fast.
Right.
And the color combination of it or whatever, just that little sparkly thing just crushes fish. They love it. Like something lights them up in that. It like in the way you're fishing it, like some of the guides that we were with, like Orion, he's down hanging that thing and jigging it sometimes, and he's able to get salmon to bite it. And it's like, you're fishing in a lot of different ways too. Don't just throw it on a bobber and forget about it. Like throw it in the wood, jig it, put it in the wood in the current and drop it in this way and pull it up and then drop it again, you're getting a lot of different bites on that. Can't tell you exactly why even the salmon are in it. One of the things, like, when it's swimming a certain way, it might look like a teeny little smolt, swimming.
Yeah, small,
and
right.
the fish are going to trying to attack it.
Yep.
And when it comes to like why we use certain flies when we do, like with the grayling, they're pretty forgiving. They're going to bite almost anything at a certain size a few times, and you just run it through. Like you got some go-to. If they're being picky, and depending on the time of year, if it's early season, like a white woolly bugger. Off the drop off like that gravel drop off, like the shallow gravel drop off, just a little bit more depth, and you could barely see the color change on the rocks down there. And that's that edge. You're trying to just drop that bugger or whatever nymph right off that edge and wants to hang up and put it right there. And a lot of the times you want to high stick that because your bobber ain't going to work.
Yep.
So flip it upstream, high stick it down, wait for the thump, like, and snap that wrist up if you feel anything. Like your hare's ear, that's a good go-to. Like we just have some go-tos. We do notice, like, like everything until last year, you're gonna see the most gnarliest mayfly hatch at some point during like the pink, like in the beginning of August, at some point on some good years. And all you got is the Bohemian waxwings eating the mayflies. They're landing all over you, and the birds are crushing them, and the only thing eating them in the water is the size of your pinky, like maybe a grayling like this, because they're all keyed in on the eggs happening at that time. But this year was a little different. So we started our season, during breakup, and we noticed the trout are looking not as healthy. A lot of the times, like 2 years ago, when the ice broke up, you catch a trout, it's super fat, healthy still. Like, what the hell are you eating under the ice this winter?
Yeah.
They had a healthy winter. This last winter, not so healthy. They were very skinny. They had some of them, a lot of parasites, those little crocodile looking things. Ooh, I actually got my book here.
Oh, yeah, nice.
My buddy's mom actually wrote the book, so I'll shout out Tamara Burton for Alaska Fish and Game. It's the salmon cola thing here. That's what's getting them, but you'll get the infections like that. It's really bad.
Oh, right. And what's the name of that book?
Oh, it is Common Diseases and Wild Cultured Fishes in Alaska.
Oh, wow. Wild cultured fishes. Okay, cool.
Yeah, right there.
There you go. Okay. Awesome. So basically, like any areas, and we've heard this, I'm trying to think of the last one. I mean, there's just changes, right? Environmental changes, climate change. You're seeing some effects. Who knows exactly what's going on, but you might have a rougher winter on the fish, so they don't come out quite as fat, but
and healthy.
And healthy. Yeah.
It was a little bit of a bigger double whammy for those fish too, because the previous 2 seasons ago, our salmon run was extremely low. Everything from Chinook to silver, and all the salmons in between. The only salmon we don't get in these rivers are the sockeye.
Okay.
And then we had multiple bumps in water and flooding, and so all the eggs that did happen got washed up. A big portion of them got washed out. And so when it comes to next year's breakup, so this season's breakup spring, you're supposed to have millions of baby salmon on their way out to the ocean. And that wasn't the case in some of our river mouths. And I get really excited in the beginning of the summer or spring when you walk down to the mouth of a river on the Susitna, it doesn't matter which one, and you're seeing the terns in the air, the Arctic or Aleutian terns in the air, and they're dive bombing, chattering. They're just big school of them. And then you're looking out exactly where they're dive bombing, and you're looking for maybe a shallow ripple or a log jam, and then you're looking for the other like a splash, but no bird. And you're like, okay, that's a big old rainbow or a big old grayling right under the surface, because all these little baby fish, they ride just on the film of the surface on the way out.
Right, they're going.
And that's like on all the log jams, you'll see the terns and pipers, bone part gulls standing on the log jams just pecking at the water. And then you'll see a splash right next to the bird, and that's a fish. And you're just down hanging a woolly bugger right in there, creating that silhouette, and they come up and smack it.
How are you down hanging that? Well, are you kind of, if in that situation, are you kind of dropping it just below the surface? What are you doing there?
I go above the current. Let's say it's a corner, and there's a log jam in that corner. If I'm on the sticks, I'm back rowing, and I'm saying, it could be as simple as leader, bugger, split shot, drop it on the water, let it pull tight to fill the bite. That's it.
Yep.
And then there's other ways. If you're on the bank, cast to the outside, throw them in, let it pull tight, you're swinging. You're just swinging a bugger.
Right.
That's all it is.
Just swinging a bugger. This is amazing. Yeah. We've heard this before. I've heard this from some of the best anglers. We just did an episode with Team USA. So Team USA has been dominating. They've won.
Nice.
The youth have won 3 world championships in a row, best in the world.
Let's go.
I know. The women won the world championships this year. And then it's this amazing thing. But I hear some of the best talk, and they say the same thing you're saying, is that you don't want to necessarily get your fly down on the bottom right away. You want to work it so it's in the column, and you might be nymphing it for a little bit, and then maybe it swings at the end. They talk about, right?
Yeah, it's all relative.
Yeah.
It's so relative. I didn't even finish yet, the first thing. So this last year, with all those smolt that was supposed to come out, they didn't really come out in those crazy numbers. So the fish were already skinny and hungry, and then they didn't get that extra boost of fish that they want. And so one of the other big things that they might eat that time of year is, of course, a couple sculpins here and there, but is your Dalai Lamas or your lampreys.
Right.
So when you're using a Dalai Lama, most likely in my mind, a little lamprey, a juvenile lamprey coming out of the mud and going on its way up to the ocean too. And for some reason, the dollies did work okay, but it wasn't like other times of the year. And I was honestly okay not using so many big dollies, because even if we're using a small hook, like a size 6 hook on these bigger streamers, it still will mess up some of the smaller fish every once in a while.
Mm,
And like one thing when it comes to the bugs, I didn't mind using these smaller hooks and whatnot, and because it was just, if I'm gonna see the same fish every other
yeah,
day,
it's easier on the
I'd
fish.
like to easier on the fish, and
Right.
um
I think it's pretty cool to hear. I mean, obviously there's changes. Every year can be different, but I'm not a dry fly purist, but I think it's cool to have some mix and have some hatches and bugs and maybe because we even fish mouses, right? I think one of the days with Adam, I told him, I said, "Hey, Adam, I really want to try mouse." And so I think the full day I was using the mouse for the most part. Did you guys do a little mousing? What's that like?
who's the father and son?
Yeah, that
I
was
we
Mel. Mel and his son.
Yeah, so I think I had Mel for 2 days and I had Mel and his son for one day, and I really tried hard. The conditions on one of those days, so when it comes to like the mousing will drop on the road system here a little bit faster than let's say somewhere that they never see people, because they're
Mm,
just going to be a little more curious and ready to attack.
yep.
But when you guys showed up, that first day we went salmon fishing, great, nice, hot weather. But when we ran the upper, I know we were trying to I think we had a couple mouse bites, but we couldn't get it in all the way. And the
Hmm.
weather wasn't conducive to really elicit those reaction bites. It started to cool off and rainy. And, like in July up here, when it starts to get really warm at night, like the temps are in the 50s, the
Yep.
water temps are in the 50s, and it's really nice, hot, warm day. You do a late night float and you want a mouse. It's really fun. But during that time of year, we were getting into August and the weather was turning down. It's just a lot less likely. But yeah, I would have loved to get one on a mouse. I think we were trying pretty hard, but it
Yep.
just didn't happen.
Yeah. That's right. That's why you got to have all these in your repertoire, right? You got to have all these things. You got to have the mice.
Hmm.
So, let's go back to that. You mentioned the flies. So, in this last summer, what were your top, if you had to say 5 fly patterns you used during the season for trout? Or I guess for anything, really. I mean,
Top five.
yeah, you have a top 5, or what do you use? And maybe not just trout, but just in general, doing that trip we did, what are your most common patterns?
Well, this would probably upset some people later on in the year. The salmon showed up like you guys are catching, and they started dropping eggs. So
Yep.
the number one fly was a bead.
A bead. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
caught, yeah, that caught most of the fish.
Okay. Bead is one.
The second fly, woolly bugger.
And a woolly bugger.
Third fly, San Juan.
Oh, there you go.
Those three, any year, no matter what,
Those are always
you
good.
got it. Those are gonna use those. To start out, you start out with a pink San Juan.
Yep.
Then you transition into white or black bugger.
Hmm.
Maybe green and all like olive and stuff, all those other root beer, whatever. Depending on where you're at, water clarity, all that junk. But simple bead hash in both the white and the black, they represent a little smolt when looking up.
Okay.
Then, oh man, you know, you got to mention the Duracell. That was king. It
That
probably
was
caught
good.
more fish throughout the summer than anything else,
That's
like before
cool.
the beads.
Yep.
And then, like, I want to say, what dry fly? Like,
Yeah, one dry fly, maybe for grayling.
did a stimmy worked great this year.
Yep.
All of the little classic dry flies you could think of just
I think
worked.
that's what I use too. I believe Adam pointed me to a section up above the upper float, and I went on my own one day, and I just went to this really classic spot. It was like huge boulders. I know you probably know the place.
Red Gate.
What was it?
Did you use the key to get there?
Yes, I did.
We call it Red Gate.
Yeah, Red Gate. Yeah. So I went up there and it was super awesome. And I threw on the backpack and I went hiking. I was slipping around and stuff. But I had a fun time. I was in this canyon. But I mean, I tell you what, watching those fish rise, those grayling. I caught grayling. It was just
in
like,
that pool, they're way down there too.
it was
Way
so
down
cool.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's super cool up in there. It's a unique spot.
Yep.
You know how you got like that deep pool that's kind of long?
Yep.
And you got that big waterfall-ish that comes in that white water. I love slapping that Dalai Lama right in that white water. And you got to get it tight quick to fill that bite. And you skate it through in different speeds just a couple times, and you'll see a rainbow just come out of nowhere
Yeah.
right through there. And it's just on. It's super fun.
That's what happened. I was catching the grayling in the deep pool, and then I was working my way up, and I found this little, almost a tail outside against the wall, pretty shallow. And I was casting. I got a couple of little ones, and then I cast it similar, and a nice big rainbow came up and just hammered it right out of nowhere. Same thing.
The canyon's so cool. Like that's the one cool thing about Willow. A lot of people who fish this, they fish the lower and it's
Yeah.
low and flat and woody. And then you go up a little bit and then it's more freestone,
Mm-hmm.
like ripple, pull, ripple.
Yep.
And then you go up a little farther, now you're in a canyon and it's like rapid to pull to deep corner pull, rapid to deep corner pull. And if you know the ways in between all these little pulls, or you're good enough on the sticks to throw a boat down the cliff and
Mm-hmm.
run it, especially a couple years ago when you're running it, like, well, sometimes get a day somewhere around 4th of July. I haven't had a 4th of July off in forever, but somewhere around that time, maybe a couple of us will try to do a fun float and rip the canyon section.
Yeah.
And that fishing's so fun. You're just holding onto a rope in the bow of the boat, and you have your rod in the other hand, and you're slapping that Dalai Lama behind all the big rocks as you're going through the
Yep.
rapids, and you're catching big grayling and big rainbows behind these big chundery rocks and all this energy, but you plug it in these certain spots. Oh, and that goes to say, like how we were talking about earlier, you were saying USA team,
Yeah.
and how you fish it during certain parts of the column. I got a good story. Like me and a group of guides were floating the river, and I was gonna go snorkeling to recover an anchor later
Mm.
on. We're calling it Operation Anchor Freedom.
Yeah.
And but I had the wetsuit on and I'm snorkeling and I'm watching the guys fish, but I'm underwater. Here's this one guide. He's good. And he's casting the Dalai Lama, throwing it on the outside bank, mid Atlantic it deep. But I'm noticing this like 16 to 18-inch rainbows coming up and smacking it almost instantly when it hits that surface. And we're throwing a mend at that time. We don't feel it. We're locked in our ways, try to get it deep and then tight to feel that bite for them. We're not too used to them. Maybe at that water temperature, they're super froggy and ready to bite, and that was different. And they're coming up and biting. And I'm like, dude, they're biting it. You're not knowing it because we're letting it sink too much. And they're calling on me. They're like, they're not coming up on the surface. I'm like, okay, if I raise my hand, just set the hook. Even in a mend or whatever, just set the hook. Next cast, he throws it out there. This fish comes up on the bottom. Like, seriously, like, it just hits it. And I raise my hand and he's like, no way. I was like, dude, I told you I would have never done it unless I saw it,
Yeah.
And it was just like that day in particular, they were super, froggy active. They're ready to go far and fast to fill that bite. And I'm a big believer, like, like remember when we went up to Clear Creek and it's flooded and you had no visibility.
Oh, you mean the year we came down, did the helicopter, heli trip?
Yep.
Yeah, I do. I will never, by the way, Will, I will never forget that trip. That will always be at the very top of my list of trips, even though, right, we get there and the river's kind of blown out and we're like worried.
There's much visibility.
Right. But yeah.
Literally, I can even see my laces when I drop them in. So, but since I know that creek and I know there's some fish that should have been spawning right there, even though we can't see anything anymore, the vibe says there should have been salmon there. So where did the rainbows go during no visibility high water?
Right.
They get sucked up on the shore in the slowest current, right? And since they can't see, they feel comfortable being a foot underwater, 6 inches underwater.
Right there.
6 inches close to the shore. So you creep up to the edge of the water and you drop your bead down there until you feel a rock. Or maybe you feel a leaf, but you're still snapping that wrist up because that time of year, you got a lot of leaves in the water too, right?
Yeah.
A lot of
September,
so you're
fall, right? Yeah.
And when you're high sticking in a slow seam, it sometimes feel like a leaf because a fish is not attacking it. He's just opening his mouth and letting it, close. And you're just feeling a little, and then that's how, like, we got that one fish in the very beginning of the trip before we even got the boat set up.
Right.
Just high sticking right in there. And then boom, I'm like, okay, there's still fish here. I've made me feel a lot better. We caught a fish there. Like, because I was stressing for you guys. I wanted to,
I know.
like any other trip, you want to, you're in good conditions.
But that trip, I could tell you, we got some nice fish that trip for sure. But, it just, again, back to the fly fishing trip, that trip is so much more than just the fish and the fishing.
Yeah. It was pretty epic. Yeah.
I mean, I remember that helicopter ride in. You fly in and you drop down and swirl around and drop right on that gravel bar. I mean, the thing was seemed like it was barely big enough to hold the helicopter.
Yeah.
And we throw our stuff out, and then the helicopter takes off, and we're in the middle of nowhere for the next 4 days. And it's just like, it was an amazing trip, man. And we had the Northern Lights, and we had like, what do you remember most about that trip? Because it was, I feel like,
The company was top notch. You had Nick, you, and of course Adam and Cam, and just our campfires and
And
the
the campfires.
shenanigans around the campfires.
I know.
That was and our night walk. That was pretty fun too.
Yeah, we had that one night where we camped right on. I mean, it was crazy, right? Because we camped right on the river.
My phone is still on that island.
Yep.
I lost my phone that trip.
Oh, you did.
Yeah. So everybody 3 years ago trying to call me, and that's when I switched numbers.
That's what happened. So yeah, you lost your phone. Well, I'm glad you brought up the clear versus muddy, because that is something that comes up not only in Alaska, but everywhere. The water gets muddier, and you mentioned it. So those fish when it gets really like that, they're moving in towards the shore where they can kind of feel like feel more secure maybe out of the direct
100%.
flow.
They're not going to be hanging out in the fast water. They're trying to eddy out wherever they can. And, during certain floods, what makes it tough to catch a fish is that you got such a big frog water, eddy water. And, like sometimes in the early season, if they're really keyed in on like the outgoing smolt and fry, you could use a bobber and a level bugger with only this much, like a foot in between, when you have super bad clarity in the water. If you're noticing fish is rising and hitting something on the surface, like at a river, like where it hits the sewer or something in the beginning of the season, and they're eating, but the water is chocolate milk, which is a lot of the case along the Susitna.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking for that silhouette and maybe movement. So and that's one of the only times that you're gonna be able to get fish in the slack water like that. Now, when it's actively in a flood and you're getting these temperature changes and stuff, they're in a little bit more of a shock. They might not be biting it on the way up, well, after near its peak as much. It's when it starts coming back down just a little bit, starts to settle just barely.
Yep.
The fish are going to barely start to come back out from the shore or wherever, like a deep pocket of eddy. And you can't really fly fish that. Like the other day,
Right.
I'm at a river mouth and it changed, and I was really disappointed. It just threw a big old huge recirculating eddy, and it didn't have enough current. So when I throw my bobber out there, a fish could just come up and look at it, sniff it or something. And he's never going to really bite it unless there was a competition factor, unless he really wanted to get it before the next fish.
Yeah.
So like that, I'm screwing this up. I don't know.
No, this is great. This is great. I love all this knowledge. I mean, I'm starting to think too, again, about the trip. We were talking, now we got multiple trips. We got the trip where we did the heli, but then also looking back at this trip from this last summer. I remember on day one, we went out, before we even went out with you guys on the water with the float, we went out to a place because we were fishing Willow, but we were staying at a cabin upstream, and we went to one of the mouths of the creeks. I think it might have been Montana Creek.
Montana.
And we went out there, and I remember Mel's son was out there just having the time of his life catching chum and I think pink. Do you know that Montana? Do you guys ever fish that? Is that something that it can be good?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, a lot of the people, growing up in Anchorage, 95% of the time, all the anglers are going down to the peninsula. But every once in a while, when you're going north, and if I knew how good the fishery was up here, I probably I would have been up here a lot more instead of fighting the crowds on the Kenai.
Yep.
Montana is a really popular fishery. So like a lot of the people from Anchorage, they pass all the other good streams, which I like, like just keep going to Montana. Because you got on Montana, I don't know if I should be saying everything. It's not a secret, but you got Yoder Road up there in the upper section that gets you to the Three Forks up there, the north, middle, and the south. And you could hike all those, and they get into like more smaller creeks, and you can do everything from mousing and stuff,
cool.
and they're competing on the time of year. Really epic fishery, and some really nice big fish. And then there is sections of that you could float down to the highway or just above the highway there. And then below the highway, going west towards the Sioux, you could hike down to the mouth. So extremely, a lot of people fish it. We fish it. Typically, if the fishing is good enough closer here, because that's like almost a 30-minute
30 minutes,
drive.
yeah.
Yeah, so if I have clients and I have a good enough opportunity in our backyard, and I
Yeah,
don't want to
why
waste that
leave?
30 minutes,
Yeah, yeah.
And so yeah, no, man, well, they're all good. They're all
They're all
great.
good. I think the road system is, and I talked to Adam about this too. It's like, this is a pretty amazing resource that people, even if they don't get a guide, they can DIY their way up through Alaska and the road system. And they can, another thing I heard about, and you probably know about this too, but we had a guest from Fish Alaska magazine who was talking about the stillwater opportunities out off the system out in your area. Do you guys ever think about that much? Have you ever
Oh,
touched on that?
shoot. I should send you a picture of my biggest pike I just caught.
Oh, really?
Yeah, one of our repeat buddies and clients, we were gonna do Clear Creek, and then we're gonna turn around and do the Talachawitna. And the Talachawitna is it's a western Susitna tributary.
Mm,
But during that time, of course, we got flooded out, like gnarly flooded
yeah.
out. And thank God the helicopter couldn't take off
Oh,
because, like, Danielle, she's a badass. She was going to get us out there, but the windows were fogging up too much because the gear was so wet. And I was like, thank God we didn't make it out there.
right.
But we called an audible and said, hey, Dave, or not Dave, Boyd, we could do this Trapper Lake. I never done it yet.
Oh.
It's going to be like the same flight cost as Clear Creek. So, we could try that. I don't know. I hear there's a lot of pikes. I never done it, blah, blah. I'm just letting him know. He's like, hey, let's do it. We go out there. His second cast ropes a pike. Oh, like, no way.
Really?
Sweet. And we're catching them. We're pretty consistently figuring it out together.
Yeah.
Then we go to where the creek outlet comes in. He's doing good, catching fish, have lunch. And he's like, all right, I want to see you fish. And I put on the big, I went down to Nicaragua this last winter on one of the trips to go for big tarpon. Never got them. Not the big ones. Some of the buddies like Cam got his first permit. That was cool. Yeah.
Good.
So, but some of the other boys, the biggest tarpon we caught was 70 pounds. But long story short, all those fancy tarpon flies that I bought for Nicaragua, I brought them for the pike fishing. So I put on a giant mullet fly.
Nice. Like how big? Like 8 inches?
Yeah, like nipple to nipple.
Right.
And I let it sink in this one little outlet, and I'm on the bow of this little rubber, raft, and I wasn't double hauling it, casting away far, stripping it in. I was just like, all right, I'll lob it right there. I'll let it sink. And I'm just going down. I'm trying to look at it. I'm like, was that a flash? And I just dropped it more. I'm like, did my fly just disappear? And I sat in my rod, just go.
Oh, nice.
And this thing just go, and it is like, I'll send the pic.
No kidding. So you landed it. Now, was this a small fish, a medium fish, big fish?
No, it was a big fish. It didn't tape
it was a pike.
I didn't, huh?
Yeah, it was a pike.
It was a pike. Yeah, it was. I didn't tape it, but it was one of those where you're like holding it like this, or it's girthing out of your over your hand. It was pretty. So
that's a species that we haven't talked a lot about. We've talked about the salmon, everything, but pike, Alaska, right, is a place for pike all over Alaska if you can find them.
Yeah. So that's a slippery slope depending on the area you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So here, when we talk about pike, it's not a good thing. They're introduced.
Oh, right. So they're not native to that area.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to get these dates slightly wrong, but here's the general gist. Back in the 80s, somebody brought a pike into one of their lakes in the Western Sioux. So they could have pike in their little lake, and there's cabins on every single lake out there on the Western Sioux that people with their float planes fly from Anchorage or whatever, go there for the weekend, or some of them live there, and they get back in snow machine in the winter, because it's relatively short drive in the winter, to the Deshka landing or something, and you're on the road system.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty easy to get in the boons in the winter just on a snow machine. You're really close, or a jet boat. So it's not infeasible for the average Joe to have a cabin on some lake, But okay, I'm sidetracking.
Yeah.
So pike were introduced in the 80s or 70s, 80s. A flood happened, and it spread some of the pike, and they kept spreading, and they ended up in Alexander Creek, and that's a tributary to the Susitna. So that's when they first got
Gotcha.
introduced. And now we're finding there's even a lake in Willow, that little, when you go down to the lower, there's a tiny little stream you cross over. Well, that's connected to a lake that has pike in it. Now we're finding pike in Willow.
Mm-hmm.
One of the guides out here named Kyle Wilkeson, really good dude, really great dude, works for Bear Paw, one of the other guide service out here. He is like the pike whisperer. He's always killing them.
Nice.
Like if he can't get them to bite, he's snagging them out of there and killing them, And
Right.
so yeah, so when we go to these lakes, the law is that you're supposed to kill every single fish.
Oh, you are right, because they're killing native fish.
And you have like an eagle. When we went to Trapper Lake, an eagle just follows you and waits for the certain size. He doesn't want them too big or too small. He's waiting for you to float.
So you thump him and just throw him up on the bank?
You could do that, or you keep them.
Oh, you keep them to like eat them?
Yeah, they make, well, a couple years ago, our guides, we had an Alabama and an Arkansas guide, and they're like, hey, we got pike. And it was in this early enough in the season, we went and do the hike and pike to Red Shirt Lake out here. So you hike about a mile, and you rent a canoe out there, and you go out to the grass beds and start hucking, whatever. Hopefully, you're using top water. Like it could be a piece of foam they're hitting it,
Yeah.
And you're just filling the bottom of your canoe with pike, and you hike them out, fillet them up, and then, fry them up in like your Southern style fry, and they taste great.
No kidding. There you go.
I don't like filleting them. I grew up filleting all the sockeye that you could imagine.
Right.
But, those Southern boys, they loved it. They did all the work and tasted great.
Hey, remind us again, you just got me thinking on this. I know we talked about this in the first episode, but you connected, did you connect with Adam, or when did that fly fishing transition get into when you kind of got full on? Because now you've been guiding for a number. I mean, how many years have you been guiding now?
Oh, the last year was my 10th.
Yeah, 10 years. So you're 10 years guiding now. I mean, first off on that, what does it feel like 10 years? Like how fast did that go?
I feel like my brain is mush lately.
Yeah.
It's like trying to recall, even I'm not saying it's from work. It's just whatever stage of life I'm in.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
It definitely just feels like a blur. Like when I look back at my phone, I'm like, that's 10 years ago.
I know.
And like, and it's like, and then that picture brings back all these memories that you're trying to forget, and
right.
I don't know. It feels like a blur.
Yeah, it feels like a blur.
Yeah. So like we started off small. Now we're, like Adam says, the largest in the state.
Right.
So it's like, yeah.
Yeah, you guys are going, that's the thing. You're going, I mean, I remember, this is what I remember. I won't forget this either. We were on the float trip because we had 6 guys, and then I was there as well, right, with the crew. And by the way, I want to give a shout out. We have, on that trip, the last night, we took the microphone at our cabin, and we passed it around to everybody in the group, and we asked the question like, hey, what did this Alaska trip mean to you? And everybody picked up the microphone and talked about the experience. And so we're going to put that at the end of this episode, Will. When we're done at the end, I'm going to have that little conversation with our group just so everybody can hear that. But yeah, I mean, it's just this kind of experience. It's hard to explain, right? It's hard to put words into what we're talking about here. But I was on the thing with Adam, and we're floating down the river. You guys are guiding, and I'm with Adam. He's guiding me. He's getting me down. He's literally getting phone calls, talking like, hey, this is Adam from FishHound. He's like,
and telling you, guess right.
Totally. Now, is Adam a multitask? Like, that was like, wow, Adam, you are literally doing this. He was able to guide me, row the boat, and talk on the phone at the same time.
Oh, man, it doesn't matter what time of year you hang out with Adam. It's always, FishHound Expeditions is Adam. Like, non-stop. It's just
it
like,
is.
You just forget about Adam for a minute. He'll come back
yeah, he's gone. He's gone for a minute. Yeah, totally.
He could be on top of a mountain about to do a run, and his phone will ring.
And he's gone. Well, what is Adam? Because you've been there for quite a while now. What is it about the FishHound Expeditions thing that Adam's built that you guys are? You're as much part of this and anybody. What's that thing that you try to explain? Like, what is it that you get here that you don't get in any other places around the country?
I think with our style, like what brings some of the, random new guides up here and stuff from around this country is that, like, as you work up and you're trusted, and you could skilled enough to do whatever version of trip we're doing. With like Clear Creek, you need to be good enough.
Yep.
You need to be whitewater certified. You need to know how to fly fish. You need to know how to set up camp
Mm-hmm.
and cater to clients. So like Clear Creek is one of the more stringent ones,
Extreme.
but like you got a lot of very talented oarsmen and multi-day guides down in the States that are looking for something a little bit different. And one of the things that we do offer up here is that like you have Western Alaska, you got Clear Creek, you got the Western Susitna, and you got our day use area. And our day use area is in one section of river that you float every day.
Yeah.
You got the Lower Willow, the Upper Willow, the Upper Willow, you got Little Willow, then you got the Keshwitna,
Mm-hmm.
then you got Goose, Sheep, Montana, and that's everything between Willow and Talkeetna.
And you have still waters out there somewhere, right? You can get to.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest with you, Dave, like before going to that Pike Lake,
Yeah.
Adam's like, I don't know if this is going to piss you off, but that Pike trip is going to go. You're going to go fish a lake. I'm like, it's all right. Because lakes to me,
yeah,
I'm not like,
you're not as much a lake guy.
I'm not a lake guy. I'm not sitting there making a 20-foot leader and slips bobbers or whatever.
That's not your style.
When I go in a lake, like when I hiked the last lake I really fished, that I can remember, me and my dog, when we were living in Yakutat, hike up to Seatuck Lake and I get a canoe and I'm just trolling a woolly bugger.
Yeah.
And I'm doing great.
Oh yeah.
like if we get flooded out on some rivers and we have some wind, you know what I'm gonna do first? I'm gonna row up to the upwind side of the lake along the shore, and we're gonna troll buggers to start the day.
Yeah.
Like, you can't beat a tight line bugger,
No.
You tight bit, like it's gonna work or it's not.
Yeah, bugger. A bugger is, I just heard Kelly Gallup, he was just on our CJ's Real Southern podcast series, and Kelly, who's the master streamer guy, he basically was saying how much the woolly bugger, right, that pattern is still a killer. It imitates so many things, right? Whether that's some sort of a crab, it can imitate a ton of different things.
And you could fish it 100 different ways.
Yeah.
You could literally fish it so many different ways. If I had to pick one fly that I had, like I could get in different colors and sizes, it would be the woolly. If I had to pick one fly that I could fish the rest of my life, it would be the bugger.
I'm going back to it now. Your top 5, Will, for this one. I'm going back. Bead, woolly bugger was number 2. So on your list, you had woolly bugger. And I always go to, for me too, I mean, if you had to pick one, it's just that all-around fly. It just works everywhere for weather.
In all time of years, typically. Now, like up here in Alaska, like when I say they won't go up after those mayflies, it's because they are keyed on eggs, and not just an egg, a certain size, a certain color, and it better be freaking titties if they're near the glut. And the glut is something, when the fishery is really healthy, the fish are so freaking fat and healthy, you can't force feed them anymore.
Oh, they're done. They can't even eat anymore.
That's when they're puking up half their belly, and it's just like, it looks like you dumped a bag of pink Skittles in the water.
Crazy.
An entire bag.
Wow.
They're that thick, and like that's what you're hoping for in the early season too, when they're eating all the baby fish. You hook one, their bellies are as gorged, and they all of a sudden you just see a bunch of little silver things in the water like that big.
Yeah.
Little baby, like pink smolt and stuff coming out and just puking them.
Jeez.
And like that will make the fishing slow. Like, the 2 weeks in August on really good years, like when I first started fishing up here, that was the case almost every year.
Yeah.
You go, you can't buy a fish. Sometimes you're like trying to switch it up. You're like, okay, I'm going to use the 8 mil apricot pearl, but I'm going to put a San Juan on it.
Yep.
Or maybe a nymph, really throw like a Prince nymph or something like that on there. You got to make it different sometimes.
Yeah, it's still fishing, right? It is Alaska, but you're still fishing. You can't just...
The fish are curious, and if they're full and happy and they're seeing the same egg, but then they see like a little pink worm, they're like, oh, maybe that's a little bit of flesh or something. It might elicit something in their brain, even though they're like so full, they don't even want to move.
Yeah. That's amazing. Well, Will, I want to start to take it out of here with our segment. And again, this is what's great because I can sit here and talk to you for hours, and we will get it. We'll follow up because we're going to definitely be
I
talking.
feel like I left a lot of tangents hanging out
That's
there.
what
and I'm
all the
sorry
podcast.
about that.
The podcast is all about tangents. Like you are the perfect guest because we love those tangents. But I want to take it out. We mentioned the Big Sioux, right, Susitna, and I talked to Margaret with the Susitna River Coalition. I recently we were chatting. We had an episode with her. So this is our kind of our conservation corner segment where we're going to give a shout out to some of the great groups out there. Margaret is doing some good stuff. She's out there fighting a good battle. I think there's a lot of challenges, both politically and all sorts of stuff. But so first off, in this, we're going to give a shout out to that. For you, I want to get a couple of tips, and I got a little random segment to give you. But what are your thoughts there? Are you? We're talking about. I know there's some river cleanup stuff like that. Do you get involved? Do you know much about any of the conservation groups? Is that the Big Sioux? Is Margaret's group one of the big ones out there?
Adam is the expert at that.
Yeah, he's the man.
He is the man, and he is so proactive.
I know.
Makes me feel bad. Like, I learn about things. I'm not proactive as much as he is at all.
Like, he went to Washington, D.C., right? He literally flew to
He's our
Washington,
lobbyist
D.C.
now, basically. Like, he's got represented by some of our other, leaders in our conservation groups to represent a lot of us, which I thought is really cool. He's a good speaker in that.
Yeah, he is. That's what I think one of the things I really love about Adam and his focus is that conservation is a huge part,
Like my version of conservation that I do, we do the river cleanup as a company every year.
So you do. And that's why I want to ask you, because I was talking to Margaret about that. I said, Margaret, we want to help promote this river cleanup. We've got a lot of listeners around the country, but also up in your neck of the woods. And we want to promote this next year. So tell me about that river cleanup. This will be a great little segment. What is that like?
So for years, it was I believe Three Rivers, the fly shop in Anchorage, or not Anchorage, Wasilla. The fly shop in Anchorage that I recommend is Mossy's.
Yeah, it's Mossy's.
But the one in Wasilla is Three Rivers. And AJ has been sponsoring it for most of the years. And it's like a little plaque or surprise for most trash or most unique and stuff like that. Last year, I don't think there was a sponsor for it. If I had correct, I could be wrong.
Yep.
But we just do we get together and just do a float, spread out and come back together and see how much trash we collected. But throughout the summer, every single day, every single hike, my net is a trash bag.
It is. Yeah, you're doing that.
No matter what. And I think the other version of conservation that I do that's a slippery slope is I'm not a river police.
Yeah.
But it's really, I am good. If I see you doing something wrong, you know me, I can't hold it in. And I want to say sorry to the one buddy that I ranted that one day while I was cooking the hamburgers.
Oh, right. Right. Who was it? I can't remember. It was
just a rant. It wasn't directed necessarily towards you. I was just letting this bad energy out because we had that one boat that come in the tree and cut off Mel. I set up Mel in that, not the perfect spot, but the best spot in that area to get it done for Mel. Because not everybody was hooking fish right away before lunch there. And I got Mel in the spot.
Yep.
And this boat comes crashing in while fishing over everybody. And then they bring that big old rainbow into the boat. And they got the nice catch and release net, all this stuff. And then they just dry docked that rainbow into the boat. And that already got me going.
Right.
And then I let all the energy out on our buddy.
You did. No, that's what I think that, again, that's what we love about you, Will, is that you have the energy. You get fired up about these things, whether it's some guy trying to, maybe fishing illegal for kings right out there, which happens.
Fishing, poaching the kings, and then, mishandling the rainbows. I'm going to, one of the good examples of this story is there's a day fishing, there's this father and son, they're back bouncing plugs on the lure, and they're absolutely hammering fish.
Wow.
And they're new to fishing, brand new. And they're having a great day, but they're pulling the fish up on the sand.
Oh, man.
Doing that whole thing, wrestling it, and then taking pictures of a sandy fish. And you're like, hey, guys, you having a good day? And they're like, hell yeah, blah, blah. I'm like, cool. Can you guys do me a favor and just keep the fish wet?
Yeah.
Just keep them a little wetter.
Right.
I'm not going to tell you to pinch your barge yet or anything because that's not the law.
No.
I'm going to ask you to, but,
yep.
That one ended up good. I say it to another guy. It's
right.
Like,
No
like
kidding.
in people snagging the pinks, like that's a slippery slope on when you tell them like, hey, can we not treat these fish like that? I know it's a pink salmon. It's not that big a deal, but show some respect.
Right. Well, they're still trying to spawn too, right? Pinks are still trying to
Yeah,
spawn out there.
they're important too.
Yep.
When you go to the bar here, at the Pio,
Yep.
it's those locals in there. Oh God, I hope some of them don't hear this.
Right.
But
Yep.
like, you go in there and they're like, "Oh, you're a fishing guy, blah blah."
Yep.
The reason there's no kings here anymore is because all the rainbows eat the eggs.
Oh,
And I'm
wow.
just like,
God. Yeah.
it hurts your soul.
Yep.
I wish a little bit more education because, like, I grew up fishing with an ugly stick. I
Yep.
was that family that went down to the Kenai. You snag a sockeye. If it wasn't legal, you're booting it back in the river.
Yep.
Literally booting it.
Right.
And that's how you grow up. But when I got into fly fishing, I'm like, whoa, okay, keep them wet. There's a movement. And I didn't know. And I just wish there was a little bit more of an education like that
Yep.
somehow on like the river etiquette and how to keep fish, even in the spinning fish world,
Yeah.
and
Well, I think that's part of I think you hit the nail on the head, the education. That's part of what the river cleanup's about. The river cleanup is about cleaning up the river for sure, but educating people too. Like people see it, they're like, oh, river cleanup, and then maybe they join and maybe they learn that it gets them, it's like getting them in the door. And then eventually they hear you talking about this. Like, oh, wow, I should keep the fish wet. I didn't know that. I didn't know it was hurting the fish to pull them out of the water, right? It's these little baby steps.
Well, like a lot of people bass fish, right? We don't got bass up here,
No.
but how do you treat a bass or a catfish? They're pretty tough freaking fish. Rainbows aren't that tough. Grayling aren't that tough,
No.
And like, it's just, people don't know. Like even, and people think of it like a lot of the locals in the more rural areas, it's like a resource to always be there. It's not, they don't need to worry about it until
you don't, which Chinook salmon we've talked a lot about in the last couple of years. I mean, everybody thought Alaska Chinook, right? No issues, and all of a sudden the closures happen, right? And it changed the game. Well, Will, this has been a lot of fun. I just want to make sure I got one random one to get you, and this is kind of random, but not really. Tell me about, you mentioned at the start, this trip to Asia. This is a place that I haven't been to. What? Give us a little short snippet on your travels. Did you travel to one country, multiple? What did that look like?
That was the only trip I could remember in my lifetime that I didn't bring a fly rod with me.
Sure. And you could have there's probably some places you could have fished, right?
And I regretted it in like places in Vietnam and stuff. And I was watching some locals fish some ditches.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't care what I catch. I just want to catch something somewhere else. But yeah, me and Cam's buddy, Shane Mogan, we've been going on trips together for a while. Like the first year was Honduras, going to see Cam's place and getting dive cert and catch bones and stuff. And then the year after that, we went to Asia. So we started off in Korea, then Thailand, then Vietnam. And, I always wish I traveled when I was younger.
Yeah.
And all I got is a dog. I don't have an old lady, or kids or anything. So,
you have the flexibility.
Yeah. And it was we're just checking stuff out. Anybody's curious about Bangkok, it is what you think it is. It is wild there.
Good. I mean, there's some good stuff about it. It's a good time. I feel like the travel again. I'm with you. I think it's cool that you're able to do that because I feel like that getting outside of this country, travel in the world, seeing places that aren't the U.S. can help you, right? You probably learn some things. You probably come back here and you think about things a little differently.
Oh yeah, like first time I went to Mexico, I'm watching the Mexicans like in this one. It was north of La Paz on the Baja. So I forget the exact name of this marina. I was in a sailboat for a little bit, and they're hand lining a spoon, like they're across the bay. It felt like, and they're catching these Spanish mackerel like nothing. And I can't, even with my paddleboard going out there with the fly rod, I freaking no idea what I'm doing trying to catch these fish. And I thought that was really cool.
And that is cool.
Yeah, going to, Hawaii is part of America, but going to South Point, seeing those guys fishing off the rocks, I don't like their trash bags as bobbers, but it's unique seeing that. The Nicaragua was a trip.
Yeah.
Like we go down there and it's me, Cam, a lot of the FishHound guys that we all worked with. The one guy, Cody Marr, shout out his fly shop in Gardner.
Oh yeah, right.
We all went down there, and you go into these, like, so we're going north of Bluefields into the Mosquito Coast, one of the more remote parts. We picked like the cheapest, most remote tarpon fishing trip we
Nice.
could get. And dude, it was what? We took a 60 to 80-mile ponga ride through the jungle north
Oh my
from
gosh.
Bluefields. And then you get to this jungle hut, this like looking jungle hut in the jungle. The family gets kicked out,
No
and they
way.
put up their little Coleman tent, dude.
Sure. This is like an Airbnb. This is perfect.
And then they put us up in there, and you got these pigs and cows and running around.
Yep.
Everything's mud and poop. I'm not
Right.
even joking. Everything around, and like just the heat and the jungle and the
God,
bugs all around you.
that
That
is
was an
crazy.
experience. And then, that was for half of our 7 or 8 day trip. And then the other half would go to Sandy Bay. It's the bigger village along the Mosquito Coast there.
Okay.
And it's a village with like, like some concrete buildings, like one concrete building that holds like the old hotel or something like that. And they put us up in there, and the village comes out on the last day of the fishing trip and do a traditional dance, and
Oh
all the
wow.
middle school girls were all dancing for us, and it felt like we were in National Geographic magazine.
Totally.
And then you go around the corner, there's an endangered sea turtle flipped on its back, and that's what we're eating for dinner.
Oh my God, no
It's
way.
wild. I'm not sure if we should say that out loud to some of the buds, but
Yeah.
like that's the kind of place where we traded 6 beers for 6 lobsters, spiny back Caribbean lobster or whatever they were,
Amazing.
because lobster's nothing for them. They just dive down and get them, and we just give them a few beers, and it's a fair trade for them.
That's crazy. Well, I think what you're shedding light on is just the travel. And I think for a lot of people that haven't been to Alaska yet, that's the same, a different experience, but the similar sort of thing.
You're catching the same fish in a different way in a different spot.
Yeah. And a different environment.
If you came up here this last summer, it would have been a little more familiar at certain times of the years using dry droppers or whatever,
Yep. Yep.
But you got the chance of getting them on a mouse too,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool.
You do. Well, Will, this has been awesome. I think we'll leave it there for today. We'll send everybody out to fishhoundexpeditions.com if they want to connect with you and Adam and everybody. And you're going to be, I'm guessing, next year, another full summer of good stuff. Is that the plan?
Unless something, epic happens where I give it up, yes.
Awesome. Well, thanks for all the time today. Like we said, always great to catch up with you. And for that trip too, man, I really want to thank you for putting that together and making the experience amazing for everybody.
Yeah, I hope that could be a more common thing.
Yeah.
It's always good seeing you. And that was a great trip. I was a little curious on how it was going to go.
Yep.
But those guys that you brought up,
I know.
they're top notch.
Well, and you know how it went when I knew it was going to be amazing. I mean, first night we get there, but after I think it was the first day on the water, we were talking like, I was thinking it was going to be Mel and his son, Greg and his friend, Brandon, Alec, kind of fishing together because they kind of knew each other. But after the first night, they said, hey, I don't want to fish. I want to split up. So people that didn't, and they all fished and we mixed it up and it was great.
Well, you could always fish with your dad back home. You could always fish with your buddy back home.
Exactly.
Get a different vibe out there.
Yeah, different vibe. That's it. Cool.
Yeah, the overall that trip was cool. It worked out pretty unique, and I'd hope trips in the future have similar outcomes.
For sure. Cool, Will. Well, thanks again, and we'll be in touch.
Cool, Dave. I'll see you.
Before we head out of here today, I want to share something pretty special that we did on the trip. After we wrapped up the Alaska trip on the last night, we all sat around our little cabin where we were at, and we had a little moment where everybody shared what the experience meant for them, the river, the fish, the people, kind of all of it up in Alaska. And so here's a quick look at it before we get out of here. Have a good listen, and everyone who was on the trip, definitely thanks again for the experience, and we'll see you on that next episode. This is the Alaska 2025 FishHound trip. And so what I'm going to do is pass this around, and we can mix up too, but I'm going to pass around to each person and then just give me anything you think is memorable from the trip. Something like that. Like maybe, like if it was me, I would say this trip has been, like we've said, it's been amazing bringing everybody together here. And the mousing today, even though I didn't actually touch a fish, was cool to finally do, to see those fish come up and eat it and all that stuff. And so it's as simple as that.
Perfect.
So let's just do that and just pass it around. And
Is it recording?
Recording right now.
Am I supposed to say who I am?
Yeah, say who you are.
Hello, everybody, listeners. I've been waiting forever to talk to you. I finally got my chance. The stage is mine. No. Brandon Farley, pretty fortunate, third trip with Dave.
Yeah.
Alaska's been on my bucket list for a while. But the thing I will say, and there were a lot of greats, but I'd made this comment a few times this past couple of days. I couldn't have scripted a better, first trip to Alaska. Came here with this pretty lofty goal of catching 6 separate species, and I knocked that out in the first 2 days. So I thought that was pretty cool. But to be honest, I still think the coolest thing I saw today, and I did all week, was landing a 3-inch rainbow leopard trout on a 2.5-inch mouse. So pretty epic. All right. I'm passing it to my friend here.
All right, Tim.
Okay, I'm Tim Bennett, and I'd just like to say, I've enjoyed this trip. It's my 3rd trip to Alaska, but first trip to fish with FishHounds and first trip with Dave. So it's been a great trip. Lots of fish caught, lots of good stories, lots of good entertainment on the river, and we just caught lots of fish, and it's been a great trip.
All right. This is Alex Javier, and I think the biggest impression I got was hanging out with everyone who we all come from very different places, and it's just like, it's very unassuming, some of the people that you see who have these incredible backgrounds and live these lives that you wouldn't expect, and yet we are all here together, and we've prioritized this kind of fishing expedition, and it really shows that, like, even people who have very different experiences and walks in life, when you have one thing in common, you are able to connect and really enjoy each other's company. I'm really lucky we got to sight fish some incredible rainbow trout, and personally, I've been wanting to catch a grayling since I was single digits years old, like maybe 9-10 years old, and being able to hold a grayling in my hand is one of the biggest dreams that I've had in fly fishing. So it was a wonderful trip.
That was good.
My name is Henry Kuwahara. This is my first time in Alaska, first time fishing in Alaska. Came into the trip with no real expectations, just came to fish with my dad and couldn't ask for a better trip. I also wanted to touch point that came together with all these guys who are a lot older than me. But I haven't ever really talked to or found a group of guys older than me that I like to hang out with as much as the group of guys I'm hanging out with right now. Also got to catch a lot of big fish. First time catching salmon. Accidentally hooked a very large king salmon, but great experience nonetheless.
Edit that out so Alaska.
This
is Mal Kuwahara, Henry's dad, and I'm glad we were able to make the trip together. It's good to just have to spend time with family when you're able to, and that was one of the main reasons that I wanted to come on this trip. I've been to Alaska before a couple of times. That it's just a great place. I mean, there's just so much to see, and you get away from civilization. And I like the group because we have something in common. If you go around and try and meet people, you'll find something in common, and you don't have to get into all that. Leave politics at home and just fish. And one disappointment is, I said, after falling in the river once, I said I'm not going to fall in again, but it didn't quite work out well. But I think everyone got a good laugh out of it at my expense.
My name is Greg Mills. I've never been to Alaska before, but I'm lucky enough to win a trip from Dave from the Wet Fly Swing. People really do win. Yep. Had no expectations. Fishing is fishing. catching a fish is a bonus. Getting to meet this group of people, these guys that have a common theme in, of fishing, fly fishing for a fish. It doesn't matter if it's 2 inches or, 25 pounds. It's just a common theme of let's be together on the water, learn something, have fun, and experience something that only God gave us. We're out here in nature, and Alaska's an awesome place. I'll be back. It's just check off the bucket list. Yeah. Time to move on to the next place and meet new friends. This group of people get together and have a great time.
Yep. Well said. All right, and I'll finish it up and just say, just want to thank you guys all for coming out here and doing this. This has been, it's like we've all talked. It's pretty crazy, right? You bring everybody together from these diverse backgrounds, and we sit around and we have the common fly fishing between us. But it never ceases to kind of amaze me of how I do these things, and almost every time you like you said, Alex, you bring together this diverse group of people, and we're just hanging out, having the best week. So yeah, I think that, there were some challenges, I think, the water was low, it was clear, 70 degrees, it wasn't the perfect, conditions, but we all managed to work hard and fish hard and had some success. And, it's hard to put it all into a nutshell, but I just want to say thanks you guys for doing this. And I'm excited because I think these always build into something else, whether that's like talking more, but I always go back to Nick at Lamson when we did one of our first trips. He was like, after we did, and actually full circle, this was the FishHound trip that we did when we did the heli trip. Nick said at the end of that, he was like, friends forever. Yeah. Friends forever. And I was like, I remember that because it's true. Yeah, that's the thing. All of us will be friends forever. And it's kind of a cool thing to appreciate that. So thanks, guys. It's been good.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful trip.
All right. If you want to check in with Will and book a trip with him on the water, if you're heading up to Alaska either for another experience, you want to check in with Will or Adam for a day, or want to get a full week, you can do that right now, FishHoundExpeditions.com. If you want to find out more about what we have going up in Alaska, you can go to wetflyswing.com/pro. Sign up there. We'll get some information out to you on details of the trip. I would love to hear from you. You can also go directly to wetflyswingcommunity.com. Go to Wetfly Swing Community, and you can see all the details on what it takes to jump into our community. You can do that right now. Thanks again for checking in today. Really enjoy checking in with Will. It's always a fun one. And just want to let you know, we're heading up for Pike to Canada. So if you want to get in on that one and learn more, check back with me soon. All right. Hope you're having a good morning. It's super early in the morning right now. I'm just getting ready to get the car going, get on the road. And maybe you're also getting ready to get on the road here. It's always fun. I think that's the great thing about fly fishing and travel is that it's more than just the fishing like we talk. It's just kind of getting out, throwing that podcast, which I'm going to do right now. I'm going to download the next podcast. In fact, I'm going to look at it right now. I get the pleasure of kind of listening a little bit ahead of the game. And right now, I'm going to tell you right now where I'm at. I'm looking at 8:44. I'm going to be listening to that ahead of the time to make sure it's sounding good. And actually, I've already listened to most of 8:44. That is Nick with the Conservation Angler. So I am going to be going to the next one, which is 8:45. And it looks like Lance Gray. Awesome. So there you go. I'm going to be checking in on that one today. Hope you get a chance to listen up and follow us right now. If you get a chance, if you want to get that next episode into your inbox and you're new to the show, follow us or you can subscribe as we're getting some stuff going here. Thanks again. Hope you have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.